Here is your top story for February 8, 2026. Hong Kong's Jimmy Lai sentenced to 20 years in prison after landmark national security trial. Source: CNN. Former Hong Kong media tycoon, Jimmy Lai, 78, was sentenced to 20 years in prison on Monday in a landmark national security trial. Lai, a self-made billionaire and longtime critic of Beijing, was prosecuted under Hong Kong's 2020 national security law, making him one of the law's highest-profile targets. The ruling highlights the impact of Beijing's security law on dissent in Hong Kong. Here is your top story for February 8. Here is your top story for February 9, 2026. Ghislaine Maxwell pleads the Fifth, but says she'd speak fully and honestly if Trump grants her clemency. Source: NBC News. Ghislaine Maxwell, an Epstein co-conspirator, refused to answer questions from the House Oversight Committee, invoking the Fifth Amendment. Her attorney says she would speak fully and honestly if President Donald Trump grants her clemency. The remarks keep Maxwell at the center of the Epstein probe as a clemency possibility looms. Here is your top story for February 10, 2026. New images in Nancy Guthrie disappearance could break this case wide open, retired FBI agent says. Source: CBS News. The FBI released new surveillance photos and videos of a person outside Nancy Guthrie's front door in Tucson, Arizona, wearing a ski mask and gloves, and carrying a backpack with what appears to be a weapon. Nancy Guthrie is the mother of NBC News Today co-host Savannah Guthrie, and her disappearance is the focus of the ongoing investigation in Arizona. A retired FBI agent told CBS News the newly released images could break this case wide open, suggesting the material may lead to a breakthrough. Here is your top story for February 8. Here is your top story for February 11, 2026. Mystery of the missing minute from Epstein jail solved. Source: CBS News. Newly released FBI documents reveal why authorities released a screen recording with a 1-minute gap from the night Jeffrey Epstein died. The materials show the FBI scrambling to justify why this edited clip, rather than the original footage, was released as part of the Epstein files. The documents aim to explain the discrepancy and shed light on the decision-making behind sharing the missing minute video. Here is your top story for February 12, 2026. FBI releases first description of suspect in Nancy Guthrie case. Increases reward to $100,000. Source: CBS News. The FBI released the first physical description of a male suspect tied to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Today co-host Savannah Guthrie, in Arizona. Authorities have increased the reward for information to $100,000. The investigation remains active as investigators pursue leads related to Guthrie's disappearance. Here is your top story for February. Here is your top news article from February 13, 2026. Trump vows voter ID requirements for the midterms, whether approved by Congress or not. Source: NBC News. Former President Donald Trump said on social media Friday that he would issue an executive order requiring voters to show identification in the midterm elections. The plan would take effect if Congress fails to act to pass a voter ID law. NBC News frames the move as a unilateral effort to reshape election rules ahead of the midterms. Here is your top news article from February 14, 2026. Democrats seek to reassure Europe about post-Trump America. Source: BBC News. Democrats are seeking to reassure Europe about a post-Trump United States as opposition politicians gather at a Munich summit to offer an alternative to America First and position themselves as future party leaders. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez emerged as one of the conference's biggest draws, surpassing even Rubio in attention. She used the platform to frame wealth inequality as a central pillar of the Democratic domestic policy agenda.